This little princess was bold. She dared to do things others wouldn't, and dared to make money others were afraid to earn. The other young princesses, impressed or perhaps intimidated, offered up their most valuable possessions to her. Earlier, she had been telling them a story, but just when it got exciting, she shut the book. Calmly, she told them that if they wanted to hear the rest, they'd need to pay. The girls were desperate to know what happened next, and so one by one, they handed over their treasures to subscribe for the continuation. Just after collecting everything, their instructor arrived and demanded to know who the mastermind behind this scheme was, but no one confessed. The instructor then brought out a mysterious box and declared there was a monster inside. Each girl had to put her hand in. If anyone lied, the monster would bite her. The first girl barely touched the box before recoiling in fear. But the original girl, the ringleader, boldly inserted her whole hand without hesitation. Afterward, the instructor told them all to show their hands. Only the bold girl had dust on her shoulders. The instructor concluded that the other three girls must have lied, which is why they hadn't dared to fully reach in. The one who dared was clearly telling the truth. She ordered the first three to be dragged away and beaten 20 times. At that moment, the ringleader raised her hand and confessed that she had been the one telling the story. She thought she was being clever and mischievous, and she really was. After all, she had given the others joy, and she found it all quite fun. She confessed that she had snuck in. On the way, she met the also heading to the same. The Crown Prince didn't question her much, and even helped her over the palace wall. She and the boy knelt in front of Court Lady Park's bed. The boy was weeping. It was his grandmother lying there, and he himself was the heir to the throne. The palace the girl comforted him, but just then, someone outside shouted, "The ancestor is here." The heir panicked. If the ancestor saw him there, he'd be stripped of his title. The two frantically looked for an exit, but there wasn't one. At the last second, the girl was in the middle of the room, and the second, the girl noticed a small window and pushed the heir through it. Just before the ancestor entered, she knelt before the door and humbly claimed she had been sent by the instructor to conduct the inspection. The ancestor summoned her and looked at Court Lady Park's body. Memories flooded back. He too had been born of a princess and had endured a lifetime of ridicule for it. Court Lady Park was also a princess. He had forbidden the heir from visiting her, afraid that the boy would end up mocked just like him. Seeing the ancestor in tears, the girl was thoughtful. The ancestor, moved, gifted her a book called Rules for Women, written by Court Lady Park herself. After the inspection, the maid and the instructor watched as Court Lady Park's coffin was carried out. The instructor told her that when most princesses die in prison, they are thrown out of the palace and left to die pitifully. Only women like Court Lady Park, those who had become the king's own, were honored and carried out with dignity. Later, the old king saw the little girl kneeling on the ground and was stunned. She looked just like someone he had known long ago. He summoned her and said, "Your fate will be the same as Court Lady Park's. You will become the king's woman." The little girl was confused and responded, "I only wish to be a princess who writes beautifully." The king laughed and replied, "Fate is written by heaven." And indeed, just a few hours later, her destiny changed. At dawn, the little girl woke and happened to see a woman hurrying past. Curious, she followed and realized it was one of the king's lesser concubines. The woman was secretly reporting to the prime minister's men that the heir had hidden a banned book, urging them to inform the king. Hearing this, the little princess understood. She ran quickly toward the library. Meanwhile, the king had already received the report. Furious, he told the heir that if evidence was found, he would be deposed. He ordered the eunuchs to search the library and retrieve the forbidden book. They searched every shelf but found nothing. The lead eunuch then ordered a more thorough search of the desks and drawers, not allowing anything to be overlooked. At that moment, the maid was hiding behind a cabinet, clutching the banned book. She knew they were moments away from finding her. Desperate, she flipped to the prohibited chapter and tore it out. She then quietly slid the book out to an attendant. The young boy took it casually, but a eunuch spotted him and snatched the book, delivering it to the king. The king opened the book and saw that the chapter about King Jiangzhou being born to a maid, precisely the part he had banned, was torn out. It had always been a source of shame, as the world mocked him for also being born to a maid. He asked the heir if he had torn it. In a panic, The heir admitted he had, claiming he did it because he knew how much the king hated that chapter. Upon hearing this, the king's anger shifted to relief. Back at the Eastern Palace, the heir called over his young boy and asked if he had been the one to tear out the page. The boy recalled what had happened and almost told the truth, but upon second thought, he lied and claimed it was him. He said his had done it because he feared the king would scold the heir, and so he tore the page to protect him. The heir stepped forward, took the boy's hand gently, and made a promise. He would never forget his act of loyalty. One day when he ascended the throne, he would make sure he was rewarded. While the maid gained the heir's trust through this, the whole incident left the girl shaken. She remained anxious and curled up in the arms of the palace matron for comfort. Years passed, and the female maid grew up. One day, she stumbled upon the torn pages from the book she had hidden all those years ago. She thought to herself, if she ever saw the heir again, maybe these pages could be used to earn her a promotion in the palace. As fate would have it, on a sunny afternoon, she truly did run into the heir once more. But this time, disaster struck. She had dragged someone into trouble with her, and that someone happened to be the heir. She panicked, convinced she had committed a capital crime, and tried to drag him up out of the water. Yet instead of helping him, she kept pushing him back down. The heir, soaked and pitiful, eventually threw his head against the wall and climbed ashore on his own. The maid knelt down, begging for forgiveness. The eunuch informed her that the heir had ordered her to write a self-reflection essay and submit it. The maid almost laughed out loud. Was that really all? Such a light punishment. But she had no idea that this was only the beginning of a nightmare. The next day, she went to the archive room to write her reflection. Suddenly, the heir walked in. Because of the panic during their last meeting, neither of them had clearly seen the other's face. When she saw an unfamiliar man enter, she questioned why he had come into the Eastern Palace archive. The heir ignored her question and instead asked the archive itself if any suspicious people had entered recently. It turned out the archive was connected to his classroom, and he suspected someone had been spying on him. Frustrated by his attitude and feeling defensive, the maid grew angry. Without knowing who he was, she picked up a broom and swept him out of the room. Just as the heir was about to reveal his identity, she slammed the door shut. The heir had never been in the room before, did like that before. 2 days later, the maid knelt before him, holding her written reflection. The heir looked up. Wasn't this the same girl who had swept him out of the room 2 days ago? What an awkward reunion. He gave a small, nervous smile, afraid she might recognize him. He signaled to the eunuch to place the paper down and line by line corrected her reflection. Then he told her to take it back and rewrite it. Frustrated, she returned to the archive. Not long after, the heir showed up again. This time, he lied and said he had been sent to monitor the scholar in charge of the archive. Since only educated people could take office, the maid immediately served him a bowl of clean water and respectfully asked him to help revise her reflection essay. At last, the heir had a chance. He corrected her work word by word, sentence by sentence, guiding her carefully. Unaware of his true identity, she kept thanking him repeatedly. But when she submitted the second version of the reflection essay, it was still rejected by the heir.